Hi, I'm Claire Ernst. I'm a California State Chair for Young Americans for Liberty, and today we're going to be talking about the higher education system. Specifically, we'll be covering how government meddling in the higher education system means that students are majoring in the wrong things, accruing massive piles of debt, and delaying entering the workforce until far too late. The first real problem that this creates is it entices students to go to college who shouldn't and entices them to major in things that aren't profitable. From the time that students enter kindergarten, they're being groomed for college. While they're learning to tie their shoes and taking naps, they're being asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's a seriously loaded question if the only right answer involves a college degree. When the federal government spends $76 billion a year enticing students to go to college and major in things like gender studies, art history, or psychology, we wind up with 165,000 janitors walking around the United States with bachelor's degrees or higher. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a janitor, but there is something wrong with using taxpayer dollars to get a history degree that lands you a job as a janitor. When we tell students that they have to go to college to succeed, we set them up for failure, waking up at 24 and realizing that your liberal arts degree wasn't worth it. Without government subsidies, these mistakes still happen, but at least they rest solely on the shoulders of the individual rather than also on the taxpayer. The problem doesn't stop at underemployment, however. The student loan debt bubble surpassed $1 trillion in 2015, and when an average year of school at a public university costs $18,000, it isn't hard to understand why. 18 grand a year for school, many young liberals protest. That's exactly why we need government aid. Wrong. In 2015, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York conducted a study that found that tuition increased when state and federal aid programs were expanded. In fact, they found that for every dollar of government aid provided to colleges in New York, tuition increased for students by 65 cents. A similar study conducted in California recently found that the effect was closer to 1-to-1. This means that federal aid and federal subsidies make college more expensive. Mismatched skill sets and a mountain of debt looming above our heads both contribute to an unhealthy economy, but there's one more effect that the dangerous college culture has on our students, and that leads us to our final point. The state is acting as an enabler, allowing students to go to college to avoid entering the workforce, the real world, or whatever you want to call it, for 4+ years. And the 750,000 master's degrees we awarded last year seem to demonstrate the plus in the 4+ there. By making college cheaper, or as I said earlier, more expensive but seemingly cheaper, the state is subsidizing and encouraging this type of behavior. Students using college to hide from the workforce means that they aren't in the workforce. They're leaving home on average years later than their parents' generation, and a combination of student debt and mismatched skills means that when they get out, they aren't making enough money. They aren't investing, aren't buying houses, aren't having kids, and most importantly, aren't paying a lot in taxes. So our younger generation is content leeching off the American taxpayer to fund their higher education, but they aren't using that education to give back. In any other context, we'd call this a bad investment. I say it's time for us to end spending on higher education, allow the free market to work its magic, and pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, America. That's how we save the American dream.